whoever becomes the prince through the favor of the people should know that he always owed the people the favor.
All right, so that's in an ideal society.
In an ideal society. Thank you so much.
All right.
God have mercy upon us.
So, guys, I'm here with my friend. His name is. Please, can you help us introduce yourself so the guys would like to know you?
Thank you so much, Paige. My name is Obi Godwin. JB. I'm from Cross River State of Nigeria. A graduate of political science, University of Ibadan, and a member of the Electoral College of Nigeria.
All right. So, Mr. Godwin, tell us about yourself, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
Are you married or you're single or what?
Actually, I'm off the market. I'm married, happily married with 2 kids. No, sorry, actually 1, but because I'm anxious to welcome my second child. So
all right.
I'm kind of saying
Congratulations in advance.
Thank you so much.
Well, I like your style of parenting. I think your family, they're in like outside of Lagos, so they're in a very, very secluded environment, and you're here.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? Is that by choice?
Yeah, actually, I graduated from University of Ibadan. The Serenity of Ibadan is a very lovely environment, even though it's not, in my judgment, not very economically active. So,
Okay.
but then it's a good place to stay. So it's like me making money from Lagos and spending it in Ibadan. And judging from the Serenity, my wife decided to stay back because there's a lot more peace there.
So basically, you are stealing Lagos money and you're spending it in Ibadan.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm stealing Lagos money because I hustle it out. But I mean, yeah, in a kind of way, it looks like that. But you know, we still intend to come back to Lagos anytime. But I don't know. Whenever my wife is ready, she decided.
All right. So I have to report to the Lagos State government. You are siphonning our money and you're spending somewhere else.
I mean, Lagos State wouldn't have to take it up with me because I've lived in Lagos for over 15 years and I've contributed significantly to the economic growth of Lagos State. And so, for the past few years that I decided to stay back at Ibadan or to share, I'm not even staying back at Ibadan really because I spend much of my time here in the month. In the month, I spend roughly 26 days in Lagos. And so, let's say maybe a difference of 5 days is in Ibadan. So
your money is spent here.
Still spent here. Yeah, stylishly still spent.
So you went to what school?
I went to University of Ibadan, the premier university.
What did you study?
Study political science.
All right. So that means you are what's the word? You are eligible to talk about politics.
Yes, by virtue of our degree
Certification.
I have a foundational knowledge of politics, be it political analyst, security at any level concerning politics and governance. I have a foundational knowledge about all of that.
You are a certified politician.
Well,
certified, not practical.
Yeah, okay, yeah, certified politician. Yeah, I take that.
But
we used to call it, I'm not yet a partisan.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what's important? The certification or the practice or both? But both are important, but what's more important? Choose one. So if you pick one, what's more important?
Well, I would say both of them are important, but one is predicated on the other. I mean, you have to have a certificate. The certificate is not just awarded to just anybody. You have to pay your dues, like going to school, going to classes, decolonizing your mind and all of that. And at the end of the day, your certificate will not be issued to you. With that knowledge, with that foundational knowledge or broad knowledge, I think you stand a better chance to render a good governance if you decided to become a partisan politician.
So you're telling me you're more important than the politicians that never went to school?
Yeah, because a lot of them do not even. I mean, that's a very good question that we'll have to create chance and talk about that topic on a good day because it's one of the reasons why Nigerians are where we are, because a lot of people who are practice or let's say partisan politicians or mainstream politicians, they do not have the basic knowledge of governance. A lot of them do not even know. They don't have a handbook of the Nigerian Constitution. They never read it, but I've been privileged to study different courses concerning Nigerian Constitution. At least I have a handbook of it everywhere. I even have the app on my phone. But how many people do that? So most of the politicians we have don't even know what is their right. Some of them who are even in the House of Legislature, you ask them what's the duties of legislature. I mean, even during their campaign, they expose themselves systematically, but because we have a very significant number of people who are also not having those preliminary knowledge about what duty a legislature is supposed to offer, and most legislature come and tell you, I'm going to construct road votes for me, this, that. That's not the job of a legislature. So that is the problem we have. Like today, if I eventually get the opportunity, there's no way I will come to tell my constituency or my senatorial district that I'm going to construct the road. It's not my duty. My duty is to make sure I bring proposal, I write bills that are going to be passed into law that will affect the lives of my people positively.
Like, I know you don't know, you've not had a lot of experience with Desmond Elliot, but do you think he's a good politician?
Well, I can't say. It depends on the constituency. Have the ability to, or have the chance to decide that, because if he has been offering, at the end of the day, it boils down to the service you are offering your people. If you've done something or you are rendering services that are bettering the lives of the people in your constituency, then, it's up to them to judge you. I mean, I don't have to, I'm not living in this constituency. I don't know what project he has been rendering or he has been offering the people in his constituency, so I just can't judge him.
All right, so let's get into the major question of the day. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So, Mr. Godwin, can we know your full name? Your full name.
Yeah, like my full name is Obi Godwin Achebe. I'm from Cross River State, Nigeria. I live in Lagos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So where are you from? What state are you from in Nigeria?
Cross River State. I just said Cross River State. Obudu, particularly the obsessed Obudu Cattle Ranch. That's where I come from.
Thank you for watching.
Oh, all right. So like, what are your social media handles? Do you have any social media handles?
Yeah, of course. My social media handles are Fab and Tech Solution, because that's my company name and that's what I usually promote.
What are they into?
And we're into tech and the sales of gadgets, computers, laptops, and phones, and we also do repair. Yeah.
Can you drop your handle for us, your Instagram and socials?
Yeah, my handles on Instagram are Fab and Tech Solution, and then likewise on Facebook, Fab and Tech Solution, and I think those are TikTok, Fab and Tech Solution too. Yeah.
So what is a political scientist doing in tech?
Yeah, I find myself loving tech because at the end of the day, tech has become the subject of the world. Technology rules the world in some sense, because when you look at the society we live in, virtually every sphere of the society cannot do without tech. So I love tech. I love the fact that I'm just a tech savvy. So I decided to.
So are you flirting with opportunities? Why don't you just stick to political science?
Yeah, I mean, it's not disrupting my goals. I mean, in my own terms, I used to call it passion, career, and then profession. So I divide them into three. So I think one is a passion, one is a career, and the other one could be profession.
Why the difference?
The difference is that
Differentiate fashion, career, and
Yeah.
profession.
career is I study political science. That's a career I'm pursuing. If I have to further, I'm going to further in the aspect of political science, maybe an offshoot of political science. That's where I'll further. That's my career. And then my profession is actually a political analyst. That's a profession. That's my profession. Then my passion is sales of gadget. I just love everyone to be technologically advanced and basic knowledge of gadget and all of that.
I understand. All right, that's good. Like that differentiation is very important.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so who do you think is the most effective president in Nigerian history?
Well, the problem with Nigerian system, look, if we have to talk about Nigeria in most cases and the administration, both present and past, we'll spend the whole day here, trust me. The problem with Nigeria has always been that there's a funny thing that is happening in Nigeria. Every time the past administration is gone, the next administration the citizen will start appreciating the previous administration, which I'm left with no answer to that. But of course, it's also boiled down to the kind of governance they have been rendering. Where so far, there's an administration that was really short-lived, and because it was short-lived and the way they started, because they didn't just come and then make things hard or reel out policies that makes things difficult for Nigeria. That administration came and then instead decided to make life a lot more easy for Nigerians. And so because of that, he has a standard, and that administration was President YarAdua. YarAdua.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's for me. I will join the bandwagon to give him kudos for that.
All right. Do voting have a relationship with outcomes of governance?
Wow, that's a very interesting question. Yes, of course. Many times I tell people the reason why we are where we are, or the governance that we are enjoying today, either we are enjoying or we are not enjoying it all boils down to our voting attitude. Yes, because if we decided to put religiosity, put maybe tribalism, or those tribal sentiment, we put all those things aside and then vote based on look for a technocrat and vote for somebody who is going to render a good governance, we will enjoy the dividends of democracy and good governance.
But do you think our voting counts in Nigeria?
Yes, our voting really counts. It counts because I'm very sad each time I have a conversation with many people who used to say or will try to convince me that no, our voting don't count, whether we vote or not. Whoever wants to emerge will emerge. No, it's not true, because if you look at the demography of the election that ushered in Bull of Jonathan, you realize that it was the voice of the people. And if anybody will agree with me that that was the voice of the people, then tell me why you think if the people has come out to speak against the second emergence of Buhari administration, for instance, tell me why he would have made a way in. He won't, because if there were no voters card lying waste, INEC would not have a way of manipulating anything, if at all they did manipulate anything. So voting counts, and our voting has a lot to do with the dividends of governance we are enjoying, or either we are suffering. Our voting is to decide that if we put tribal bigot, religious sentiment, and all of that alongside, and say, okay, fine, we should put the right peg at the right hole, and then I'm sure the person like Niccolo Machiavelli used to say that in his book The Prince, he said, whoever becomes the prince through the favor of the people should know that he always owes the people the favor.
All right, so that's in an ideal society.
In an ideal society. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. All right. Why do we have a poor voting attitude in Nigeria?
Yeah, that's the question we need to bring to the public, because a lot of the time, I think that problem, in my own understanding, is as a result of the poor political participation of the people. Because, for instance, a child who grew up, a son of the pastor tend to want to become a pastor, right? A son of a politician tend to want to become a politician. A son of a business person will tend to want to become a business mogul. The evidence is everywhere globally. So when you look at our voting attitude, It's poor because we do not have a political orientation from the onset. The vast majority of the people grew up in a society where the people show a lot of, our parents display a lot of nonchalant attitude towards political participation, believing that they don't want to go to the polling unit because of thuggery, because of political thuggery, because maybe their votes won't count. Who say so? If you go to the polling unit, or if you stay away clear or stay clear from the political or the polling unit because of the political thuggery, the question is, how many are these political thuggery? We embolden them. If the vast majority of the people in the polling unit, maybe the accredited number is over 100 people, and then they go there, and then a small molecule number of people who are illiterate and so-called political thuggery come to disperse you, then it is because you don't know you are right. But if we overpopulate, the population of the people is way more than those of the small number of thuggery, then we are going to get a very good result, because you stand there, you cast your vote, and you defend your vote, and they will have no chance to manipulate our vote or the result.
Well, what have been the case where the police deciding the thugs?
A lot of the time, the police will only side with the thug because the thugs has already succeeded to create fear in the lives of the citizens. And the citizens always sharing their responsibility by saying they are political thuggery, they are carrying guns, this, that. I mean, if we decided to stand against the thugs, how many numbers are the people called the thugs? They're not much. Most of the time, they're just a small number of people. Are you telling me that in this society, if the war break out today, they are going to wait for government to come and fight the war? Some people, I'm not even encouraging in any way that they should use arms against each other. But at the same time, if the number of people in the polling unit outweigh the number of thugs, the thugs will have no choice than to surrender to the people for their will to take place.
All right. That's a very good point, Mr. Goodwin.
Thank you so much.
All right. Who is to be blamed on the poor governance Nigerians are receiving? Who is to be blamed?
Interestingly, that's the point where most citizens, every time I talk about it, they be like, no, you can say that. You are not being fair. We are not supposed to be blamed, because I put that blame directly to the citizens. The citizens are supposed to be blamed for the poor governance they are receiving, because their inability to either decide who is to be our next president, or the next senator, or the next local government chairman. Of course, very, very important, mostly is the local government chairman or chairpersons, because these are the people who are in the grassroots. They are the people where they are very close to us. When we talk about senator, the House of Rep, the president, they are in Abuja. You're not going to travel from Lagos to Abuja to go and make your decision or your policy known. But these local government people, so a lot of the time, even in the local government election, people, in fact, is the most poor. It always has a poor turnout. The local government election always have a poor turnout from the people. They don't want to vote. They don't want to participate. And at the end of the day, forgetting that these are the people who decide what happened to our lives daily. And even it may even snowball into the lives of our unborn children. Because so anything we refuse to fix today, we have the repercussion in the future.
Oh, that is very true. So what's the way forward? At this point, I've interviewed, different kind of people from different backgrounds. I've interviewed Jehovah's Witnesses. I've interviewed, religious people. And some people say the way forward is religious, some say scientific. What do you think is the way forward?
Well, I think the way forward in this situation,
or is general, everything is needed at this point, or you think you just?
No, I'm not going to tie it into a particular realm of philosophy like religion and all of that. I'm not going to tie it to that. This is about the inputs and the outputs. If you put in a full participation, you're going to get a very good result of it. Then if you put in a negative participation, look, you're going to get the same outcome. So it's the law of the input and the output. So on my own understanding, I believe that if the people will be educated, of course, this is majorly like what you are doing is a very good thing, giving people the platform to talk about the way forward and all of these things, and also systematically or stylishly educate people who are novice in this case. Because a lot of the time, I believe if the citizens know their right, know what they are supposed to do, then we will have a better society, because they will have to understand that we are not divinely inclined to take whatsoever is dishes to us from the government. We put them there, we gave them the job, and so we need to decide how that services is to be rendered. For instance, you might have worked in one company or the other. Do the human resources not give you, if they designate job for you, right? Sure. And they do tell you, okay, this is what you're going to be your duty. You do what they want you to do. We are the employer of this governance, of this government. And then we need to decide for them how we want to be run, how our offices needs to be run. But the reverse is the case in Nigeria. And so until the citizen, and it is actually because of the poor knowledge of the citizen about their right. The citizen's right, both the electoral act, everything is wrong. They need to understand. And then so the National Orientation Agency are also supposed to be doing a lot more than what they're doing. They're supposed to give people the opportunity to understand that it is their right to go to the polling unit. Nobody needs to be or ought to have been disenfranchised. They need to go to the polling unit and cast their votes for whoever they deem fit that is going to be their leader, and then make it even more, a lot more like it is a compulsory thing for you to do. Once you have attained the voting age of, I think in Nigeria is around 18 or something, you should be able to have a valid voter's card, and then take it serious as your duty, that if you do not decide on the polling unit, that is I used to call that a democratic revolution, because the word revolution has a lot of ambiguity in it. So I used to call it democratic revolution, because for me, it's the peaceful way of us deciding who becomes our leader. giving the credibility to every leader that we want to see there to rule us. Because when we go to the polling unit and decided to vote out, for instance, President Tinubu, it shows that we don't like his policy. We are protesting against his anti-policy, right? So the polling unit, like the forthcoming election by 2027, will give us a platform for us to decide. So if the people decide, have had enough knowledge to understand that, look, man, if you decided to stay back, you're going to have to live in another 4 years under the policy and the terms of the Tinubu administration, all right? So if we decided that, okay, no, this is not going to happen anymore, we don't want this policy, it's not listening to us, if I employ somebody in my company and he's not doing what I asked him to do, what next? I'm going to fire you, man. So you just have to fire him. And the only way we can do that is at the polling unit. All right. So the idea of people shying away from their responsibility and saying, well, he has already gotten into the power, there's nothing we can do, we just have to wait until he has finished his 8 years. Surprisingly, that's what a lot of people say. How will you even deem that feel that he should stay for another extra 4 years? We're not even done with 4 years and everybody is crying out. And then you are saying, well, he has gotten his power, let him just rule for another 8 years. You take 8 years out of your life and see what is remaining. So it's very painful. And I think the opportunity like this, anybody that had opportunity to watch this video will also understand that it is your right, it is my right, and it's the right of every citizen to make sure that we decide who is going to lead us, and whoever we're employing into the government of Nigeria, we should know that this person is answerable to us, and the person is going to do exactly what we want them to do. Thank you.
All right, that's a very, very, very vivid point you just made, Mr. Godwin Atebe. So we're going to go into a last segment before we call it off. So, Mr. Godwin, we're coming to the last segment of this podcast. But my issue with society is coming from a philosophical standpoint is, what is a perfect society? Because everybody tends to want to, shape more society. But questions I always ask is, what is an example of a perfect society that we need to reference from?
Well, I think the word perfect is too ambiguous for me, because I'd rather say an ideal society, because in the recent there's no perfect society.
True.
Even the Western countries
Example.
where we tend to be copying from, the problem Nigeria and Africa as a whole is having, in my own opinion, is that a lot of the time when we copy some policies, some philosophies, some anything we are copying from the West, we need to make it indigenalize that idea. Make it in the color is the perfect example that, okay, look, we don't have the same color, the mentality is not the same. So in Africa we should be able to try to copy something and make it indigenalize it, so that because it's going at the end of the day, the idea is going to domicile in Nigeria, in Africa. So we should make it sort of Afrocentric idea, so that we will be able to that it will be suitable for us to practice. Not that you go to copy maybe democracy, you copy it and paste in Nigeria, is that way it's being practiced in the West. What is the mentality of the West?
But some people argue that why not just create our own kind of society? Because if the West are the originators of democracy and we are stealing democracy, it means we are stealing a whole, idea. Why don't we just create our own society?
Ideally, there's no society that is maybe, I don't know the right word to use. Maybe there's no society that is science
original.
Yeah, there's no society that has its own. Every society is sort of copy one thing or the other from the other society, and then maybe metamorphose it into their own, and let indigenalize it and make it where it's workable for them. So I'm not sure African has the ability to create their own, because if you might want to look
because Fela will argue that,
okay,
because I believe we should be Africans and create our own African culture and society.
When Fela is saying Africans should hold on into their African culture, it's not wrong. We have our own culture. We have our own. Before the colonial master came into Africa, African has had even the traditional system. They have the administrative system. All these things were workable. But at the same time, imagine a child who has lived with the mother all along. Maybe after 40 years, and then the father resurfaces and says, "I'm your father." How do you see the bonding? It's going to be difficult for them to bond. It's going to take a little, like the saying goes, you can't teach an old dog a new trick. We've been under the administration of the colonial masters for a very good number of years. If you look at colonialism, it lasted for almost a century. In some countries, it lasted over 50 years. It lasted for a whole lot of century or years. So those kind of people we've lost our culture. Before that damage was done to us, a lot of our people, great mind, young youths, were already repatriated to their cities and metropoles where, they built everything that you see there. Those jobs were not exclusively done by the whites. They were done by our young black that were repatriated, and our forefathers were repatriated. And so when you come back to Africa, the African we have today is just like the birth of the Western period, of the Western colonial master. So we can't originally have our own society. We can't be detached from them. So the only thing we have opportunity to do is, okay, since we still hold on to the other better parts, the African nature, the African society, the administrative of African system, then we still hold to the other part significantly, because in Western education, I speak English today because it's in my language. It's not my language, that's a Western language. And whatever I tend to know today was written for me by the Western people. All right. So tell me one thing that was written by an African about Africa that is taught in the school today.
Very few.
So that is the kind of society we tend to find ourselves. So you're not going to say, okay, let African find a way. Well, let us just copy. Then, like I kept on saying, we can just make it in Afrocentric way, so that this is an African, this is the nature of African. Since we share similarities, this is what is good for us. This is what is workable for us. I mean, the same democracy, capitalism is practiced majorly in the Western state, maybe Germany or UK and the US, but it's not fully accepted in the Russia and the former Soviet Union. Most of the states, they don't accept it. That's why they kept on pushing it gradually to them. And China, they don't believe in most of that. They don't believe in capitalism.
All right. So which state in Nigeria do you think has done the best so far in the history of Nigeria?
In the history of Nigeria, look, it's going to be difficult
Calabar.
for me to. I'm not going to say Calabar because, I mean, we have a small antecedent of being opportune in the pre-colonial state as the national capital. And then at some point also, Lagos has been the former national nation capital. So the development has actually catalyzed into what it is today, even though some people give credence to Tinubu, the former governor, and the first governor when we return to the civil rule, as the one who developed Lagos to what it is today. I sincerely doubt that, because if this was, look at Abuja today, who is going to say he developed Abuja? It's the effort of every single, it's a collective effort of every single administration that has passed through Abuja. So,
You think so? They why?
so it's not going to be Lagos, it's not going to be Calabar, because Calabar is not moving at its pace as expected. Although it's not being fair that ever since the Bakassi Peninsula, that used to be the part of Cross River State that produces oil, and we're ceded to the Cameroonians, Calabar is officially not an oil producing state anymore. But let's look at state like Port Harcourt. Let's look at Bayelsa. Let's look at Delta. These people are still an oil producing state, and a lot more, and they are collecting.
You get
very,
it?
Interesting.
If you don't get it,
amount
forget
of
about
money
it.
from the